When a black boy tries to make a living selling lemonade, his dream is shattered by a racist officer and the injustice he represents. The sun hung low in the sky, casting warm, golden hues over the small southern town of Cedar Grove. It was a summer morning, and the air was thick with the promise of another scorching day. In the center of the town, the park began to come alive as joggers passed by with rhythmic steps, dog walkers exchanged greetings, and the occasional sound of children playing on the swings filled the air. Under a sprawling oak tree near the playground, 12-year-old Jaden Hill carefully unfolded a plastic table. His small hands, trembling with excitement and a touch of nervousness, smoothed out a brightly colored sign he had painted the night before. Lemonade, $1. The letters were bold and cheerful, accented by a smiling lemon in the corner. Jaden attached the sign to the front of his table and stepped back to admire his handiwork. He adjusted his cap over his short curls and took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the park with a mixture of hope and determination. This wasn't just a lemonade stand to Jaden. To him, it was a chance to contribute to his family. Jaden's mother, Naomi, worked tirelessly, juggling 2 jobs as a waitress and a housekeeper to make ends meet. Jaden often overheard her whispered conversations late at night about bills that seemed impossible to pay. His father's voice still echoed in his mind, even 2 years after he had passed away. Small steps lead to big changes. Those words guided Jaden now as he prepared for his first day as a young entrepreneur. He had woken up early to squeeze fresh lemons, mix sugar and water, and carefully arrange his supplies. A pitcher of lemonade sat glistening on the table alongside neat stacks of plastic cups and a small container to hold coins and bills. As the day progressed, Jaden's heart soared with each customer who stopped by. A jogger handed him $1 and praised his initiative. An elderly woman paused to buy 2 cups, one for herself and another for her granddaughter. A group of kids pooled their allowance to buy a cup and sipped it together, and were giggling as they passed the straw around. Each interaction boosted Jaden's confidence, and for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to dream that this might actually work. The money wasn't much yet, but it was something, a small victory in a world that often felt stacked against him and his family. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the park, Jaden felt a sense of accomplishment. But his joy was short-lived. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a figure in a dark uniform approaching. Officer Calvin Price was well known in Cedar Grove, though not for reasons anyone celebrated. His heavy-handed approach to law enforcement often targeted black residents, and his actions were always cloaked in the guise of maintaining order. Jaden's chest tightened as the officer stopped in front of his stand, his imposing presence casting a long shadow over the small table. "What's this?" Price asked, his tone sharp. Jaden swallowed hard. "It's my lemonade stand, sir," he said, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his chest. Price crossed his arms, his badge gleaming in the harsh sunlight. "Do you have a permit for this?" Jaden blinked, confused. "A permit? No, sir. I didn't know I needed one." Price's expression remained cold. "Well, you do," he said. "You can't just set up a business on public property without permission. Rules are rules." Jaden's voice wavered as he tried to explain. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to break any rules. I just wanted to help my mom." But Price was unmoved. "Pack it up," he ordered. "Now. If I see you out here again without a permit, there will be consequences." Tears stung Jaden's eyes as he began to pack up his supplies, his earlier excitement now replaced by a heavy sense of defeat. The brightly painted sign he had been so proud of felt like a cruel reminder of crushed hopes. A few onlookers murmured in disapproval, and an older man sitting on a nearby bench called out, "Leave him alone. He's just a kid." But Price ignored them, his boots crunching on the gravel path as he walked away. Jaden dragged his supplies home, his shoulders slumped under the weight of disappointment. His mother, Naomi, hugged him tightly when he told her what had happened. "You didn't do anything wrong, baby," she said, her voice filled with both anger and sorrow. "But the system wasn't built to be fair to us." Jaden looked up at her with tears in his eyes. "What do I do now?" he asked. Naomi sighed. "Maybe you can sell lemonade in the yard instead of the park." But deep down, Jaden wasn't ready to give up. He couldn't let Officer Price's actions strip away his determination. The following Saturday, Jaden decided to try again. This time, he chose a different spot in the park, one that was farther from the main path and hidden by a grove of trees. He hoped to avoid drawing attention. He carefully set up his table, rearranged his supplies, and took a deep breath. The morning started off well. A man jogging with his dog bought 3 cups and tipped him an extra $1. A woman with a stroller stopped to buy a cup, thanking him for the refreshment. Each transaction reignited a flicker of hope in Jaden's heart. But as the day wore on, Jaden felt a chill run down his spine. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Officer Price approaching again, his face set in the same stern expression as before. "I thought I made myself clear last week," Price said, his voice sharp. "No permit, no sales." Jaden's voice trembled as he tried to explain. "I'm not hurting anyone, sir. It's just lemonade." But Price's eyes narrowed. "The law is the law," he snapped. "Pack it up." When Jaden hesitated, the officer stepped closer, his shadow falling over him. "Do you want me to make this official?" A few people in the park began to gather, their murmurs growing louder. Someone started recording the scene on their phone. An older woman called out, "Leave him alone! He's just trying to make a living." But Price wasn't swayed. He reached for Jaden's wrist, gripping it tightly. "That's it," he said coldly. "You're coming with me." The park erupted into chaos. Voices rose in protest, anger bubbling over as the officer's actions became more aggressive. Jaden struggled against Price's grip, tears streaming down his face. His lemonade stand toppled over, the pitcher spilling its contents onto the ground. "What's going on here?" A deep voice boomed, cutting through the commotion. The crowd parted as Will Smith approached, his towering frame and commanding presence immediately drawing attention. Price glared at him, his grip on Jaden tightening. "This is none of your business," he snapped. Will's gaze hardened. "It is my business when I see a child being dragged away like a criminal for selling lemonade. Let him go." Price faltered under Will's calm, yet firm demeanor. "He's breaking the law," the officer muttered. "No permit means no sales." Will stepped closer, his voice steady. "And you think this is the best way to handle it? Dragging a child away in front of everyone? You're not enforcing the law, you're abusing your power." The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, and their anger now directed squarely at Price. Under the weight of their stares and Will's unyielding presence, the officer released Jaden's wrist and stepped back. Will crouched down to Jaden's level, his voice soft and filled with reassurance. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Jaden nodded, though tears continued to streak his face. "I just wanted to help my mom," he whispered. Will's jaw tightened, and he stood, turning back to Price. "This ends now," he said firmly. "You're not taking him anywhere." The crowd erupted into cheers as Price walked away, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. Will turned back to Jaden, pulling him into a protective embrace. "You're brave," he said softly, "and you're not alone. We're going to fix this." With Will's support, Jaden's lemonade stand became more than just a small business. It became a symbol of resilience and hope for the entire community. Donations poured in, and word of his story spread far and wide. Jaden's dream, once nearly crushed, grew into something bigger than he had ever imagined. He learned that small steps truly could lead to big changes, and sometimes those steps inspired an entire community to stand together.